Hi, I'm Amy. I work at the Children's Scrap Store in Bristol, and we get to do loads of fun crafts and events. And I'm very spoiled because I have a big warehouse full of materials and an art shop. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I'm using to make this today, and I'm going to show you what we're trying to make by the end of the day. So I'm going to point the camera down now. So this is our the one I made earlier, the archaeological dig. And hopefully you can see when I start to brush away this sand very gently that we've got a little mosaic in here. So that's what we're going to have a go at making today. Okay, so I'm just going to show you some of the things that I'm going to use to make this. So the first thing that we've got is just a box. Okay, so you could use any cardboard box out of your recycling, just something that's got sides like this. So that would be the first thing. And then I've got some little bits of card. Now I've already cut these out. So if you've got some bits of card or paper or any materials like that you're planning on using, you might want to start cutting these out. So they're not all exactly the same shape, but they're roughly just little squares like this. So that's what I'm going to use. I've also got some other things over here. As I say, I'm really lucky that I've got a big warehouse of stuff. So I went and had a little rummage to see what I could find. And I found these. I'm not even sure what these are, to be honest, but they look interesting. So we might use some of those. And I've also found this big tray of smashed up bits of tiles, which is really good, isn't it? So mosaics would more likely be made out of something durable and long lasting like ceramic or tile. So we might use some of those, we'll see. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I've just got a pencil and I'm just going to draw out a little design so that I've got something to follow. So I think that the best idea is to keep it quite simple. So I'm going to draw a fish. I think I'm going to make a nice fish. It's raining today, so I'm thinking of all things wet. So let's see. So I think it's a good idea to keep your design quite simple. You could just do a pattern or something nice like that if you wanted. So here we go. This will be upside down for you. So I'm going to just get that drawn in. Okay. Don't worry if you can't see it so well on your screen, because I'm going to start. So like I said, I've got some of these bits already cut out. So I'm going to use the darker bits that I've cut out. It's up to you what colors and shapes you use, but I'm going to start sticking those in an outline around my fish. So I've just got some glue in a little pot here. You could use Pritt Stick or any type of glue really, but I've just got some PVA and I've got a little glue spreader here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread it around the outline like this. Ooh, don't worry if it gets a bit gloopy. There we go. So I try not to go too fast, but this is a quick way of doing it. I made a couple of these to practice, and the first one I did, I glued each of the little squares individually, and that took a really long time. So I think this is a slightly quicker way to do it. So there we go, just going to do the glue around the outline of my fish. We might need to put a bit more on. This might dry out a bit quickly. That's okay. It'd be really easy if you've got a Pritt Stick. And then I'm just going to start sticking these dark squares around the outside. They look good. Ooh. Oh dear, can't keep it still. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Here's this little fish. So hopefully you'll be able to see the outline of my fish starting to appear. So you could do any nice simple shapes. You could do a really complicated shape if you were feeling brave, or you could start with an easy shape and then you could do a complicated one. So let's see. Can you see it appearing yet? So you could use any colors that you wanted. So I'm going to fill my fish in with some colorful bits, I think. Let's find some more little bits. So it's quite helpful if you've already got some things cut out. All right, I might just need to put a bit more glue on now because it's starting to dry out. And we want to make sure it's going to stick really well because later on we're going to bury it. So I'm going to put a bit more glue on. Let's just do that bit for now. Right. There we go. Can you see it? It's starting to look quite good, I think, actually. Oh, it's sticking to my fingers as well. I wonder if that bit's still sticky there. Right, I'm going to add a bit more glue again. There we go. Make it nice and sticky. I wonder what other shapes would be good to make a mosaic out of. Maybe the one I did over here was a nice sunshine shape because it was sunny that day. So when it's sunny, I make suns, and when it's raining, I make fish. Ooh, I don't want these bits in there yet. Right, how's that looking? I think that's starting. Oh no, there we go. I think that's starting to look pretty good. So this is the outline of my fish, almost done. So after this, what we're going to do is we're going to start filling it in. So this is where you can choose more colors or even different textures as well, perhaps. So I've done an outline in quite a dark color. So maybe I want to try and have a think about what colors I could put on the inside. What do you think about that? I think I've even got room for a bubble. Shall we make the fish blow a bubble? I think that would look good. Put a bit of glue there. And another bit on the other little bubble. I think I've got some smaller pieces over here. So you could always cut smaller pieces to make more detailed bits of your mosaic, and bigger pieces to make big outlines on here. You could even do it in a really big box or a tiny box. So if you did it in a tiny box, you could cut very little shapes. Or if you did it in a nice big cereal box, you could cut big chunky shapes. There we go, there's one bubble. Let's stick these on a tiny bubble. Does that look good with it blowing a bubble? Ooh, almost there. I think we just need one more tiny bit of glue. There we go, let's stick that last bit on. So, here we go, I'll turn it around this way. So there's the outline of a fish. And now, I think, shall I use some of these colourful bits of card to fill it in? I might also, maybe I'll use one of these nice big bits of tile to put a nice fin on my fish. What do we think? That fits really well in there actually, doesn't it? So maybe I'll put a bit of glue on that and we could use that one. So I'm going to fill mine in with different things just to give you an idea the different things that you could use, but also I think it looks really nice to use some different materials. So we've got a nice big bit there. Where did that yellow bit go? Do we think that that looks good as a fin? Maybe a slightly smaller one. Maybe one of these. And then I could put other bits around it. So let's put a bit of glue on that bit as well. So these big bits, I'm just putting the glue straight onto them. But I think what I'm going to do is surround it with some of these smaller bits of cards. So what do we think? Some nice pink bits. So now I'm just going to lay some down to test how that looks. I'm not sticking them yet. I'm just seeing if I think that that looks good. And I think it does look good. So I'm going to take those off. Now, a real mosaic would take a really long time to make. So this is quite a quick one. And you could make it more complicated or more full by filling in all of this bit around the edge, but I'm probably not going to do that today for this, but you could definitely do that with your own mosaic. If you were really clever about it, you could even make writing, or you could make a hidden message and then we could cover that up. So I'm just going to keep adding some glue and keep adding some bits. So I also need to remember to put an eye in for the fish. So I might just need to cut. So we make that eye a circle shape. So I'm going to grab a bit of card that I've got, and I'm going to really carefully use the scissors to cut a little circle for the eye. There we go. So being really careful with the scissors, always ask for help if you need it. And I'm going to stick that in so that I don't forget. So the fish has got a nice eye. We don't want it to not have an eye. And then I'm going to keep sticking on these little bits here. So to make things a bit quicker, when I was getting this ready, I put a few bits of paper together and I cut it all at once. So can you see there's 3 bits there, and I cut a line down here and then I cut it all at once so that it was a bit quicker, so that I ended up with lots of squares. Because otherwise you could spend a long time cutting things up. Let's get that filled in. I think that's looking good. The mosaic makes it look like fish scales, doesn't it? Which is nice. It's like making something on Minecraft because you have to use blocks to make it all. So you have to imagine how to make the shapes out of all things that are sort of square, don't you? but I like how this is looking. So let's put that colour there. I think I want a pink bit over here. Purple bit there. Need to find a little skinny bit to go in there. See what I can find. Oh, that's a good skinny piece. So I like it when it gets a bit more full, because then you have to start trying to find pieces that will fit in and fill the gaps. Which is, it's like a little jigsaw puzzle then. So I found another skinny bit to fill in that gap just there. What do you think? How's it looking? I think it looks quite good. I've also got some little shiny silvery bits, so I'm going to put a couple of those on it as well, just to make my fish extra special. You could use some foil, kitchen foil, to make some shiny bits. And also you could imagine that you were uncovering something very precious. It's some expensive jewelry or something like that, or ancient coins. There's another one. I think I need another little skinny bit. Maybe I'll have to cut one. So I'm just going to cut this shape here to fit in that little gap. There we go. Let's use that one, I think. It's quite exciting trying to fill up these little gaps now. So we're almost finishing the fish itself, and then I'll fill in the bubbles. And then the last bit is best when the glue has dried, really, but I might be able to show you before the glue has completely dried. But we're going to cover this up so that it could be like an archaeological dig. Imagine how exciting it would be to find a big mosaic hidden under the sand or some soil or anywhere really. Right, look at this, getting there now. Oh, I need to do the bubbles, don't I? I'm cutting up a few more little bits because now the shapes are getting even smaller. So I just need some tiny bits to fill in the gaps, don't I? Now, I think the bubbles would look good in blue. So I'm going to use some of those funny little shapes I showed you earlier that I'm not sure what they are, but they were here at the warehouse. So I'm going to see if I can use them. Right, I think I've filled in all of those gaps. So I've got a fish. And now I'm just going to put a couple of things in the bubble. Put a bit of glue on there. Now I'm using a little glue spreader like this, but you could just use a lollipop stick or a little brush. So here are some of these things. So let's fill in the bubble. So I'm just going to drop those on there. So I think the best place to start for finding some materials, really, if you're making one of these again, is just to have a look in your recycling at home and see whether there's anything nice that you could reuse or cut up or repurpose. So there are some little blue bubbles. So I'm just going to make sure that everything is really well stuck down, which I think it is. I'm just going to go over it like that. So what I need really is for it to dry out a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is cover it with some sand, or you could use some soil from the garden or from the park, if you could get a little bit of that, or you could use flour from the kitchen. You might want to be careful that you're not going to make too much of a mess, so you might want to ask an adult or a grown-up to help you with that bit, but that's why we've picked a box that's got these sides on it, so that it's all going to stay in and not go everywhere. So that's what I did with this one. I'll just show you this one again while that one is drying out. So I've just poured some sand. Can you see the sand in there? So I'll just show you this one again. So this is what we're going to make. So you could even find a box that had a lid. That would be really good. And then what you could do is you could put the lid on the box and then you could play with it again. So look, this is what we're going to try and do with the fish, or with whatever you've made. We're going to make something that you can uncover. So you really want to wait for it to dry as much as possible. So I can see there's still a little bit of wet glue down here. But everything else is looking quite dry. A bit of wetness in the middle. So if you're more careful with the glue than I was, you might be able to do the covering it up with sand a bit sooner. But I'm going to do it now and show you, and I might just have a bit of sand stuck to some of the gluey bits of the fish. Okay, so like I say, you could use something different to cover it up. I'm really lucky. I've got some really nice play sand from the playroom here. So I'm just going to pour a bit over. You could use a spoon to take it out. And you could ask for help if you wanted to use something that might end up getting a bit messy. So I'm going to put a bit over like that. You could make it really deep if you wanted, or if you've used the tiles or something like stones or tiles or gemstones, you might need to put on a bit extra. So I'm going to give it a little shake, and then look, we can start to see it appearing from the sand. So I'm going to really gently, using a nice big brush like this, or a big paintbrush like this. You could even use an old toothbrush, but make sure it's an old one. Don't use a new toothbrush, because otherwise you'll end up with sand in your teeth. So I'm going to start uncovering it. So this is like making a really nice discovery. And like I said, what you could do is you could cover the whole of this. So you could make your mosaic pattern over the whole of the box. And then you would have more to uncover. So I suppose you could even tip the sand out and add more to it. Or you could make another one. There we go, look. We've made our own little archaeological dig. I'm just going to uncover the fish. And you could make different things to go in here. There's the fish's eyes. There it is. Hello, fish. I should have turned it round so that it was the right way up for you, shouldn't I? Here we go. So that is our little archaeological fish mosaic dig. I hope that that inspires you to make some of your own mosaics and archaeological findings. You could put anything in there that you could dig up. I'm sure that you could think of really exciting things. There we go. And then I'm going to cover it up again. Hidden. Great. Well, I hope you enjoyed making some crafts.